Hello and welcome to the Cold Hard Truth Podcast. My name is Shrikar Rajendran.
I'm Jack Smith.
And I'm Anish Gupta.
And we have a lot of topics today. We're going to cover the NFL, college football, the NBA had some nice stuff happen this week, and the MLB heading into winter meetings. A lot of stuff happened. Let's dive right into the NFL. Starting off, there isn't a more polarizing quarterback than Jameis Winston. His supporters will point to his cannon of an arm. He has some gaudy passing stats, 458 passing yards, and 4 scores this past week against the Lions in a blowout win. It's gotten the Buccaneers back to 500 this season. You know, they have a point. What do you guys think?
Okay, I think I completely agree with that. Like, Jameis Winston is the hardest quarterback to understand. I mean, this guy will throw like 5 interceptions one game, 3 the other game, but at the same time he'll throw like 4 touchdowns in 2 straight. So he could actually be the quarterback to lead the league in passing yards, passing touchdowns, and interceptions. And the interceptions will obviously be by a landslide.
But there are detractors that have a point too. Yeah, you know, with Winston 2 games away from the conclusion of his rookie contract, the Buccaneers are going to face a really difficult decision. There's no easy answer because Jameis Winston's a paradox. You know, but over the last month or so, it's become pretty clear that Tampa Bay, they can't jettison Winston. Not now, not yet. So what did they do with him?
I think they pay him because he's going to be cheap. They have enough they have all the leverage here. And I think they can get him for maybe even under 20 mil. Maybe 20 mil per year.
I wouldn't say he's a polarizing player. I would go with unpredictable. I mean, he's on pace to set the Buccaneers record for touchdowns, yards, but also interceptions at the same time. And he fumbles a lot too, something that people don't realize as much. And I think if I'm the Buccaneers, I would rather pay Teddy Bridgewater this offseason than I would Jameis Winston because I feel like his ball security is more, and I think he's a bridge to a drafted quarterback in the next coming years.
Though Teddy Bridgewater went 5-0, I think it was because of Sean Payton. And Bruce Arians is a great coach, don't get me wrong, but he's no Sean Payton.
And speaking of Arians said, I'm going to pass on that one. I'm going to wait until the end of December. There's been really, really, really good, and there's been some really, really bad. I'm going to pass until it's over, and then we'll make a decision. Of course, that was before Winston heated up and the Buccaneers got back to 500. And with games left against the Houston Texans and the Atlanta Falcons, there's little reason to think Winston won't keep putting up these big numbers. Tampa's first 500 season since 2016 is a real possibility.
Yeah. You look at it, and you have the Saints, the Falcons, and the Panthers in your division. And I don't think Jameis Winston is a guy that's ever going to lead a team to a better record than the Saints will. And if you have a quarterback that you don't think can even win you a division title, what's the point of paying him when you can go out and draft a quarterback you think has that potential? So I think that maybe you sign Jameis to a 1-year, 2-year contract, or you look at maybe trading for a younger backup quarterback or signing a Teddy Bridgewater as a bridge to a drafted quarterback.
I think it's so hard to, like, if you're the Bucs right now, because you're going to get a mid, maybe 10 to 15th pick in the first round. And it's like, I mean, maybe if Herbert slips to you, like, you don't know your options right now. And Jameis Winston, like, he's not bad. And think about it, like, if you go division-wise, the Falcons and Panthers both have a bunch of turmoil right now. You don't know if Dan Quinn's probably out the door, but, I mean, as of late, they've looked good. So you really don't know what's going on with the Falcons. The Panthers, again, also, what do you do with Cam? How are you going to replace Ron Rivera? And the Saints, I mean, Drew Brees is only going to be here for a certain amount of time, and Jameis is still young. So Jameis could potentially lead this Bucs team to, big heights because, again, they have 2 top 10 receivers. I think Chris Godwin has emerged as a top 10. I think we can all agree there. And Mike Evans, obviously, I think, also top 10. He could be top 5 next year. Who knows? And, obviously their defense is just, I mean, it's always been bad, but Devin White's looked good. And, their secondary has put together some better games. And, I mean, he just led a game-winning drive against the Colts last week. So, he does have some sort of that clutch gene. Obviously, at FSU, he also showed that too. So, it's hard, if you were the Bucs, it's just hard to predict what to do. But I think keeping Jameis would be the right decision here.
So I'll pose this question to you guys. You're talking about all the weapons he has. What can you say about that in terms of how his season's been going this year? Because you can say without Evans and Godwin and a talented tight end and Howard, a not terrible offensive line and a trendy running back in Ronald Jones.
Well, Howard has slumped, but I think
he has come up recently.
But Godwin and Evans are 2 top 10 receivers.
Yeah, that's my point. But the thing is, like,
that's definitely a big
quarterbacks
factor.
and receivers. They help each other. Like, Tom Brady didn't make Randy Moss. Randy Moss didn't make Tom Brady. It's quarterbacks and receivers help each other. And I think, Chris Godwin's breakout season, that was also part to Jameis Winston, right? Like, the quarterback still has to get him the ball. And Mike Evans has been consistently good, but then again, Mike Evans has always played with Jameis Winston, so we haven't really seen those two without him.
Yeah, a short-term extension would make more sense for Winston, but I don't think Winston's camp would be amenable to that. I don't know if they want that short-term extension. That leaves the franchise tag as the wisest course of action for the Bucs. It gives the team another year to attempt to continue its upward trajectory without completely, mortgaging the future. And in a best-case scenario, Winston will cut back on the giveaways in 2020, and Tampa can at least feel a little better about writing that fat check. And in a worst-case scenario, the success will be fleeting, Winston will regress, and 2020 will bring a reset at football's most important position.
And I don't think they have a serviceable option without Winston on their roster at the moment. So you either have to go into free agency and sign one. It's not a great free agency class for quarterbacks, especially because there's a lot of aging ones like Rivers and Brady, and I just don't think Winston's their guy. So either they can look to draft someone in the second round to hold over, or you look to sign a Teddy Bridgewater, which is what I would do personally if I were the Buccaneers.
Again, I see what you're saying with Teddy Bridgewater, but 5 games is just not enough of a sample size.
But I think that I'm not saying you sign him as a long-term option. You sign him as a bridge to get you through 1 year in which you can draft a quarterback in a pretty good quarterback class.
Yeah, I can see that, but I think Bridgewater, like the Bucs, even without like a decent quarterback, like they still have the pieces to do well. So like, are you really gonna get a top pick in 2 years?
Yeah. And moving on, the Buffalo Bills have played 3 road games this season against teams that are currently at or above 500. After beating the Pittsburgh Steelers in primetime at Heinz Field on Sunday night, they're 3-0 in those games. If in those 3 wins over the Steelers, Tennessee Titans, and Dallas Cowboys, Buffalo has surrendered just 10.7 points per game. And it of course starts with that defense, which recorded 2 takeaways on short rest in Dallas, and then turned Pittsburgh over on 5 occasions Sunday evening. That opportunism is something the Buffalo D lacked for much of October and November. The Bills had 8 takeaways in September and just 5 in the next 7 games, but now they're making splash plays against these high-quality opponents. What are you guys' thoughts on the Bills so far?
I think that you look at their roster, especially on the offensive side of the ball, and you wonder how they're where they are right now. I don't think they have close to the most talented roster in the league, but yet they've looked like one of the best teams in the league this year, and that's a good reflection on coaching, but also you look at the defensive side of the ball, and they are very tough, physical team on the defense side of the ball, and they like to make plays. And so they've just been winning games recently.
And the Philly game is their only loss this season by more than 1 score, which is, a testament to the idea that they're greater than the sum of their parts. Tre'Davious White is one of the league's best cornerbacks. Defensive end Shaq Lawson is finally emerging. And there's a lot of hope for youngsters Tremaine Edmonds and Ed Oliver. But, the Bills lack defensive superstars, and that's okay. What they do have is what I call extreme depth. That aforementioned foursome, well supported by veterans Jerry Hughes, Trent Murphy, Jordan Phillips, Star Little Lele's on the Bills too, right?
Mm-hmm. Poyer and Hyde.
Up front, Matt Milano, Lorenzo Alexander, Kevin Johnson, Micah Hyde, Jordan Poyer in the secondary.
Yep. Yeah. I think the Bills, it just goes to show that you don't need, if you have a good coach, good front office, and I think Josh Allen is a good quarterback. Despite his turnover problems, he finds a way to get the job.
I think he's good, not great.
Exactly. But right now, he's young, so he can become great. Mm-hmm. And the team, it just goes to show you can have all the talent in the world, but if you don't have that, the coach, a good organization, right? You see that with Cleveland, you see that with Dallas. They just haven't performed. But the Bills, they're going to look for playmakers in the offseason, and why not go there if you're a free agent? I mean, they have a good atmosphere. The Bills Mafia is always ready to come to games and support their team. And, they've really played spoiler to a lot of teams, and I think they could make it run in the playoffs.
Yeah, Allen and the offense usually run well. They rarely turn the ball over. Yep. Throw in a big throw from time to time, and that's often all you need when your defense is as talented and productive as Buffalo's. The rest of AFC is officially on notice now. The Bills are going to the playoffs, and that should be a frightening thought for the rest of the conference's Super Bowl contenders.
I wouldn't say their turnovers are very low, but they have kept them down recently.
Yeah.
But if they beat the Patriots and win out, I believe they have a shot at a first-round bye.
Mm-hmm.
I'll bet you Antonio Brown actually wishes he went there last offseason. No, I think that they don't have the greatest of talent or the biggest name players, but they have guys that go out there and make plays. And I think it's a testament to Sean McDermott as a head coach. Oh, yeah. I think he's one of the greatest coaches in the league.
2 winning seasons out of 3, and I think this is a true test when they play the Patriots.
Yeah, and moving on, if a report Sunday from NFL Network's Ian Rappaport is accurate, and the Browns really plan to keep Coach Freddie Kitchens, and Rappaport is excellent, so it's probably dead on, this will be one of the dumbest things the Browns have ever done, and that's saying something.
Well, I think well, to be fair, keep the quote verbatim. He did say barring a major mishap. And allowing 450 yards to the Arizona Cardinals, I think that's a pretty big mishap.
Yeah, the Browns were atomized by the 4-9-1 Cardinals on Sunday. And make no mistake, the game wasn't as close as its 38-24 score suggested.
Well, I would disagree.
The Browns literally made Kyler Murray looked like a mix of Steve Young, Lamar Jackson, and Eric Dickerson.
Yeah, their defense wasn't good, but then again, if Seibert makes that kick in the fourth quarter, they would have been down one score. But barring that, their defense did not play well.
I think you look at this game as more of a score and points and stat standard. Look at the Browns players on the sideline, on the field, calling to Arizona, come get me, all that kind of stuff. I think this is a game. Freddie Kitchens lost the support of all of his players, and I think they're going to continue on this downward trend. And what looked like a great season for the Browns earlier this offseason, I don't think it's going to turn out very well.
I think the Baltimore game is his last chance.
Yeah, Kitchens, the Browns just don't have a bright future. And when asked about his future after the loss, Kitchens told reporters, "I don't care about my future as a Browns coach. I'm going to show up Monday and do the best job that I can do Monday, and that's tomorrow. That's the only thing I can control."
That is the worst thing.
I know.
That might be the dumbest thing I've ever heard. You cannot say I don't care about my future. That's saying you don't care about coaching this team. Like, exactly. What are you saying to your players? I mean, you're the coach of so many talented players, right? Like, Baker Mayfield was supposed to be an MVP candidate this season. He had one of the best rookie seasons for a quarterback of all time, right? And you get one of the best receivers in the league. You already had a top 10 one in Jarvis Landry. Then you get 2 top 5 running backs, right, in Kareem Hunt and Nick Chubb. And I mean, your defense looks good too. Obviously, they had injuries throughout the year, but there was a lot of adversity on this table because the Browns they've played the 3 teams with the best record in the league. So I mean, they have faced a lot of adversity, but still, I mean, to have this team lose to teams again like the Cardinals, the Broncos, though they beat the Bills and the Ravens, I mean, it's just how can you lose to these kind of teams, right? Yeah. And as a coach, you've got to have your players listen to you. Like, that's why it goes to show John Harbaugh is able. I think he should win Coach of the Year. Sorry, just a quick point, but like, if you can coach,
I still think it's Shanahan, to be honest.
If you can coach teams that aren't supposed to be
that
good,
Coach of the Year award is about which team made the biggest jump.
It's not.
The Niners went 4-12 last year,
but it's not always about that because people will factor in that Jimmy
it usually
Garoppolo
is.
Came back. But
look at McVay.
There are a lot of good coaches in the NFL this year, so I think Coach of the Year is really up for grabs right now, but I'm going to go with Shanahan now just because I don't think you can deny the Niners. But this is, I mean, we've talked about this before. We could never come to a good decision.
Quick note, McVay, again, Goff never changed. Like, their quarterback situation changed in San Francisco.
And circling back to the Browns here, the players get the blame too, of course, but by far the Browns' lapses are more about the coaching. Sure, the Browns had a losing culture long before Kitchens, but again, this year's version has the talent to end that tradition, and Kitchens is keeping them from doing that. Yeah. So, yeah. What are your last thoughts on this?
I think just a quick note, like the losing culture is not going to stop until the players can finally feel motivated under the city. I mean, they've been through so much, the dog pound and all that. Going through 1-15, 0-16, 3-13. A tandem of 5-11, 4-12. Again, they're the only team without a winning season this entire decade, and that just goes to show that this team has not found they haven't found the answer in the 2 most important positions in all of football, and one of them doesn't even play. It's the coach, and also obviously the quarterback, because really I don't know what Baker Mayfield is because we haven't seen him with a coach that can really propel him to the top.
And I feel like with Greg Williams, he was pretty well.
He was doing good. But then again, Freddie Kitchens was his OC.
Oh, yep.
So and Todd McShay was just not the answer, and I think you really don't know what they're going to do, but there are options this offseason. Like, it's really not that hard to find. There's Mike McCarthy, Ron Rivera, Jim Harbaugh, who knows? Like, there are so many options on the table, and, the Browns got to take advantage because this is their window. It's going to close in 3 years because though they're young, players are going to start to leave. You're going to have to start paying players, and what are you going to do with this window that you have right now? And, this year was, they had high expectations, this year was also a chance for them to get some playoff experience. They didn't get any of that.
Yeah, I think that you guys made a huge mistake last year letting Greg Williams go.
Oh, yeah.
Obviously, at the end of the year, those players were bought into Greg Williams.
Yep. 5-2 to finish the year.
He goes to the Jets, and all the defensive players are bought into him there. But then you see at the beginning of the year, they're not bought into Freddie Kitchens. Exactly. They don't have that same swagger they had to end the year last year. Baker hasn't woken up feeling dangerous all year.
And not only that, just a quick note on the Jets. I mean, their defense has actually been pretty solid. And, their run defense has been good. like, Greg Williams is just a good coach everywhere he goes, and I mean, I think, to be honest, I think that was their biggest mistake.
And I think he's one of the most motivational coaches too.
And the only reason they got rid of him was because Odell didn't want Greg Williams there.
And moving on, neither Drew Brees nor his New Orleans Saints peaked at the right time last season. While New Orleans still could have wound up winning the Super Bowl if not for a bad officiating break in the NFC Championship game.
Terrible call.
The fact remains that the offense wasn't particularly crisp in either of the Saints' playoff games, nor was it great late in the regular season. It was fair to ask if one of the oldest players in the league was running out of gas, as Brees threw just 7 touchdown passes and 5 interceptions while posting an 88.7 passer rating in his last 6 regular season and playoff games.
Look, I'm probably one of the biggest Drew Brees fans out there. I've been saying he's better than Brett Favre for the longest time. And, it's still up for debate, but I think we can all agree here that he is.
Better all time. I think he's better.
Yeah. So I have him right now at number 4 on my all-time quarterback list. We can.
Sure.
That's for another day, but, he's just the definition of hard work. Like, he's done so much for that team, and before he got there, they were called the Aints. They didn't do anything. They literally had no playoff success. He comes in there after Hurricane Katrina, wins them a Super Bowl, gone to 3 NFC championships in his career, and he's only had 1 playoff loss at home, 1, and obviously that was off the bogus PI call. But I mean, Drew Brees is, and he's catching fire at the perfect time right now, late in the season, and who knows? I think the Saints have a real shot here.
Yeah, and fast forwarding to the present, his jaw-dropping performance on Monday night might have confirmed that this year the Saints are peaking at the perfect time. Yeah. Brees might be a year older, but keep in mind that he missed nearly 6 full games due to a thumb injury. That essentially gave him an extended midseason break, which could have been a blessing in disguise for a Saints team that went 5-0 without him anyway.
Exactly. Yep. Yeah. And quick note, just the Saints, I mean, they have a real shot at the number 1 seed again. Their defense is looking good as well. They just manhandled the Colts. And, I mean, he is the record holder for completion percentage, passing yards, and passing touchdowns.
Yeah, I want to take this moment to congratulate Drew for the best game I've ever seen a quarterback play last night on Monday night against the Colts. 29 for 30, which is the record for top completion percentage in a game among qualified passers. He set his own personal consecutive completions record.
Yep.
Then again, he also set the NFL record for most touchdowns of all time. And going into a game with all this stuff on the line, you would think it's very stressful. There's a lot on the line. And do you look at Reggie Bush posts online that he's on the field by himself running through mental reps, and you showed that paid off. 29 for 30 in such a pressure-filled game, and one that I'm sure had him a little nervous.
And he looked calm throughout the whole game.
game.
All of his throws, it feels like, yeah, he's probably going to catch this. And it just ended up being a perfect throw. So he's just an incredible quarterback. And I also want to congratulate Drew on his record.
Drew Brees is just, I mean, how can you hate the dude? Like,
yeah, honestly.
He plays the game the right way.
Yeah, exactly.
And he's done so much, not only for the New Orleans Saints, but for New Orleans, the city, the community.
I think young quarterbacks can look at this like, those 2 playoff losses, the one in Minnesota and the one to Los Angeles, those were 2 of the most heartbreaking playoff losses I think we've all ever seen.
Mm-hmm.
And, he comes in there and says, hey, this is on me. Despite the missed tackle by Marcus Williams, the bogus PI call, he blamed himself. And, it's obviously, you shouldn't blame yourself, but he took the time to tell his team, like, hey, I'm riding with you guys. I will make a comeback. We will get to the top. And, this, who knows, could this be the year? I think it can be.
Yeah.
And they have a lot of potential.
If New Orleans can continue to perform at this level, it won't have to worry about good or bad breaks. Those breaks have probably only made the experienced, battle-tested Saints even stronger. They're a better all-around team than the Seahawks or Packers, in my opinion. And they're hotter and more prepared for big moments than the Niners, in my opinion, of course.
Yep.
And the championship chase is so often about when you're at your best. And right now with the playoffs looming, Brees and the Saints look unstoppable.
Yeah. And I think you can compare the Saints a lot to the Packers in many ways. I mean, they have an experienced, good quarterback in Brees and Rodgers, and really only one great receiving threat. Michael Thomas and Devontae Adams are both great, but the way Drew Brees does it is he makes everyone else around him amazing. Traquan Smith isn't the greatest of players. Josh Hill isn't the greatest of players. I mean, Taysom Hill they found at a Walmart somewhere, and they turned him into a great player.
And every time I look at these players score a touchdown, I'm like, how would they be doing without Drew Brees? How would they be doing on a different team?
He's done so much for other players. He's made Marcus Colston's career. I think I don't know what he would be without him. Lance Moore. Just other playmakers, Pierre Thomas. He's done so much for the New Orleans Saints organization, and I think, again, but in regards to your Packers comparison, Sean Payton is way better than Matt LaFleur.
Yeah, I agree.
And
Yeah.
Michael Thomas, please,
Oh my God.
please, the former Buckeye, of
Incredible.
course.
Yeah.
Best receiver in the NFL.
Oh, yeah,
Please.
for sure.
Yep.
Please book that.
In
And
my
I
opinion.
was saying at the beginning of the year, people still thought it was Julio by a long shot, but he's just done so much for Drew Brees and this entire team as well. Like, he came in a second-round pick. Brandon Cooks was still there, mind you, and he still gets 1,000 yards. He shows promise and just takes it to a whole nother level 2 years after.
And I think it's safe to say he will set the NFL receptions record. He needed to keep pace with 8 a game, and he got 8 almost in the first half
Yep.
and finishes with 12. And he's incredible. He catches anything his way. But also Breeze put him in the perfect spot almost every pass yesterday.
Mm-hmm. And moving on here, the Seattle Seahawks announced Monday that wide receiver Josh Gordon has been suspended indefinitely for violating the NFL policies on performance-enhancing substances and substances of abuse. Gordon, he's 28 years old, appeared in 6 games for the Patriots and 5 contests for the Seahawks this season, registering 27 receptions for 426 yards and a touchdown. What are you guys' thoughts on this?
Are we surprised at all?
Yeah, no. But, I mean, I've been seeing this since Cleveland. Like, what really is there? Like, what is he going to do?
He just can't learn. And this is the best situation I think he's been in.
Yeah.
He was on pace to be a number 1 seed in the playoffs and maybe be the number 1 receiver or the number 2 receiver for that team. And he just throws it away again.
2 top-tier organizations, and they couldn't even save him.
It's really sad that you just can't battle his inner demons. And given his history, inconsistent play in recent seasons, and age, Gordon will be 29 next season, though it's unclear if he'll even be reinstated next year given his past infractions. There is the very real possibility that Gordon will never play another NFL game.
Why? If you're a team, why would you sign him? You know this is going to happen again, and it's just a waste of your money and time. I think he's done in the NFL. I just don't think you can trust him anymore.
I agree. But, I mean, then again, he did have one of the best receiver seasons of all time in 2013.
Yeah, for sure.
But, it's just not worth it. I think, he's just too much to that team to handle. And I think he's just a distraction at this point.
And let's recap some stuff that happened over this past week. The Detroit Lions season is in disarray. Matt Patricia's squad remained competitive through the season's first 8 weeks before everything fell apart. Now the Lions have lost 7 games in a row, including the last 6 without Matthew Stafford. He's dealing with a transfers process fracture.
Yep.
And Detroit is also without running back Kerryon Johnson, T.J. Hawkinson, Marvin Jones at this point. So the team's downward trend isn't entirely on the coaching staff. Even so, how safe should Patricia's job be going from 6-10 last year to 3-10-1 this season?
I think he should still be the coach because they look good the first 8 weeks, and then Stafford gets injured. Obviously, they're going to fly south. And I don't know what to do with Matthew Stafford, to be honest. I mean, he keeps getting injured, and he's under contract for, I believe, a few more years. And his contract is just massive.
In my opinion, Patricia's not on good footing, and he shouldn't be. He hasn't improved the Lions in any way.
But
I disagree with that.
They look like the same old Lions.
But that's because Stafford's been injured these past 2 years.
Even with Stafford, how they still kind of
they looked better.
They looked better, and they were competitive in all those games.
They almost beat the Chiefs.
They should have beat the Packers.
Yep.
They almost beat the Chiefs. Honestly, they should have beat the Chiefs. They could have been 4-0 to start the year.
Honestly, in my opinion, if they keep Patricia, it would be a mistake.
I think you give him one more year.
Yeah.
And you.
Yeah.
He's dealt with injuries this year, but that's the NFL. Everyone deals with injuries and hardships.
I think Stafford and Patricia deserve one more year.
Yeah, I think one more year.
Moving on, Baltimore Ravens quarterback Lamar Jackson delighted NFL fans with a 5-touchdown performance Thursday against the New York Jets.
Not all NFL fans did not like that one.
Yeah.
His most recent contributions appear to be a knockout blow for anyone else in the MVP conversation, but Russell Wilson isn't ready to concede. Wilson completed 76.9% of his passes for 286 yards and a pair of touchdowns after a cross-country trip in a 30-24 win over the Panthers. The Seahawks quarterback continued to extend plays, create, even when nothing was available. Trey Boston, Panther safety, he said, that's what the league talks about with Russell, the way he extends plays. It's the play after the play with him, and he hurt us. Jackson remains the MVP frontrunner, but does Wilson still have a shot at claiming the award?
No chance.
No chance. I'm sorry, but no disrespect to Russell Wilson, but there's absolutely no chance.
I think he might deserve to be still in the race, but with the way the media and everything is going right now, all flocking towards Lamar Jackson, he's all anyone can talk about. And I just think Russell Wilson playing like a midday game against the Panthers, and they put Lamar Jackson on primetime. I think putting him on primetime where the entire world could see his performance, that secured it for him because not a lot of people watched Seahawks Panthers and saw Russell Wilson play well like they did at the beginning of the season. And I think Lamar Jackson locked up this week. He could go take knees for all I care for the last couple of weeks, and he's still going to win the award because that's the amount of trend there is around his name right now.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah, I'm like, did Thursday night not count or something? Like, he's going to win. But here's the thing, it's not going to diminish Wilson's greatness. We
No.
still got to respect him as a top 5 quarterback in the league.
Wilson, he had a lot of primetime games to start the year, and Lamar had a lot to finish the year. And that's more, in the end, that's really where it counts. And also,
I mean,
Russell Wilson does not, like, it's not a knock on him, but, like, Lamar Jackson's been doing something we've never seen before. Yeah. I mean, this man's about to have 4,400 plus yards, right? Like 35 plus touchdowns and 1,200 plus rushing yards. Like, that's insane. He's about to be like top 7 in rushing.
He broke Vic's record already.
Yeah, he broke Vic's record.
He might be having the greatest season we've ever seen from a quarterback.
Yeah.
And it's a testament to him that he leads the league in passing touchdowns while throwing near the bottom percentage passes per game.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And he's also beaten some great teams. Like, when I look at quarterbacks, I always look at, like, level of competition.
Texans, Pats, Niners. He's beaten some great defenses.
And some of them weren't even close. Don't forget Seattle.
Oh, yeah,
like,
for sure.
And, you know, obviously the Ravens as a whole are just a great organization. You know, quick shout out to Ozzie Newsome. You know,
he's not there anymore. It's not Ozzie Newsome. It's someone else.
No, I know. Quick shout out for him developing this.
Oh, word, yeah.
Developing this franchise. He moved them from Cleveland, obviously.
Yeah.
And, you know, you have 2 Super Bowls under your belt. And could be 3 this year.
And moving on, Eli Manning received a standing ovation during his likely penultimate performance at MetLife Stadium. The 38-year-old showed he still had a little left in the tank. He had a 283-yard, 2-touchdown performance and a 36-20 win over the Miami Dolphins. However, he still threw 3 interceptions. Clearly, his career is winding to an end. But there are always teams willing to give a proven quarterback another chance. How likely is it we see the 2-time Super Bowl MVP start for another team during the 2020 season?
It's very unlikely, but, you know, just I'm a huge Eli Manning fan. I like, you know, just in the regards of him, like, I think he's the greatest playoff quarterback in NFL history. And I think
It's arguable. It's arguable.
Yeah, and, you know, Pro Football Focus did like kind of a survey on it, and like they did some some weird metrics or whatever. And their first test, Eli Manning was number 1. It wasn't even close. I think I touched on this earlier, but like Joe Montana was like way far off. They redid it, and Eli Manning was still number 1. So he has those playoff moments, but I don't know. Like as a 38-year-old again, I don't think he has a shot.
You know, in my opinion, the NFL recycles quarterbacks really often, unless your last name is Kaepernick, of course.
Yep.
Manning will leave New York and likely start at some point next season because injuries will inevitably occur. So I think he will be starting somewhere in 2020.
I think if the Buccaneers can get him for cheap, that'd be a good option for them too, because we were talking about earlier how they don't have a serviceable backup. If they can't lock up Bridgewater or what's his name, Winston, or any of those guys, you may look at Manning as a bridge quarterback.
Yeah, Eli's not a bad option.
But also, I would not be surprised if he retires after this season.
No question. I mean, you know, maybe ride off, try and win one more game.
And now he's at 500 again.
Yep.
And they were showing the stats that there are only 3 quarterbacks in the Hall of Fame that don't have a career record above 500 or that do have a career record below 500. And now that he doesn't, I think he might be content staying right here.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And moving on, the Washington Redskins appear to have a burgeoning connection between rookies Dwayne Haskins and Terry McLaurin. To be fair, the two established a rapport during their days together at Ohio State.
Yep.
McLaurin, in particular, developed from a third-round pick into a vertical threat and now Washington's number 1 wide receiver. Dwayne Haskins told reporters, "Now that he's the focal point of our receiving core, I know he does a great job with owning his routes and being able to win versus man, win versus zone coverages, and he's someone that works hard every day." McLaurin caught 5 passes for 130 yards, including a 75-yard touchdown against the Philadelphia Eagles, and extended his season totals to 51 receptions for 833 yards. Has Washington's top target worked his way into the Offensive Rookie of the Year conversation? If so, what are his chances of winning the award?
I love Terry McLaurin, former Buckeye, but I mean, it's tough to say this, but he has no shot. Like, it's definitely going to be Josh Jacobs or maybe even Kyler Murray. But he's top 3, like, no disrespect.
He's worked his way into the conversation, but I don't think anyone's winning it over Josh Jacobs because, I mean, he's revitalized that Oakland offense and he's just lit up the NFL, especially earlier. But I think McLaurin's season is nothing to like shake your head at. He's been doing very well, especially recently with Haskins, but I just don't think he can win the award.
Yeah, in my opinion, it's pretty incredible that he might hit 1,000 yards while scoring 7 to 10 touchdowns as a rookie in that environment.
Yeah, with shakeups of quarterbacks each
week.
But
But Jacob still has an edge. He's over 1,100 rushing yards and has as many touchdowns as McLaurin. It's a legit battle, though. I think he has some sort of shot. I think it's gonna go Jacobs, but I think he has a shot.
He just doesn't have the media vote.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Washington isn't. I mean, obviously they're not a very good team this year, and they're not going to want to give the award to someone from Washington. Whereas in the last season in Oakland, a John Gruden coached team, a running back from Alabama, as opposed to a third-round pick from, Ohio State. I just think they're going to give it to Jacobs.
Whoa, no! Please don't disrespect Ohio State like
I
that.
just mean,
But yeah. So going
what I
off.
meant.
Yeah, I know. Going off Terry McLaurin's offensive rookie of the year chances, though. Let's not forget about Darius Slayton. Like, I love McLaurin.
Oh, he's been great.
Exactly. So, and obviously the Giants lose Odell. Who's going to be that number one? Is it Golden Tate? Sterling Shepard? Right? And here comes Darius Slayton out of nowhere. And, he could also hit 1,000 yards. And he's had, I believe, 3 multi-score games and 4 over, 120 yards. So he's also got a shot, but obviously he doesn't have the media vote either. But I got a question for you two. Would you rather have Terry McLaurin or Darius Slayton going forward?
They're very similar players. They have some struggling quarterbacks, Daniel Jones and Dwayne Haskins. It depends on what you're looking for. If you want a better deep threat, I would go with McLaurin. But I think Slayton's got some nice speed, and I don't know.
I think it's a better, who do you think would be...
It's hard to tell because they're so young.
If I were starting a franchise today, I would pick McLaurin just because I feel like he deals with adversity better, and I think he's performed well against better teams than Slayton has.
Well, keep in mind, again, I hate doing this, but, Slayton's played in less games, and McLaurin, I mean, he's also been inconsistent. He did have that bad stretch.
That's
true.
Again,
with bad quarterbacks, they both play in the NFC East, or the NFC least, whatever you want to call it. But I think both of them can be number one receivers. But yeah, if we were going, just a quick vote for me, I think I would go McLaurin for now.
I'd go McLaurin.
But Slayton has a good chance to.
I think McLaurin is the safer option in this case.
Who knows? This is a very far out reach.
Yeah, you don't know. They might go through a sophomore slump.
Exactly, but if hoping for the best. Who knows? Could they be the next Antonio Brown and Julio Jones?
Well, also you look at DK Metcalf and AJ Brown, who
and
Deebo Samuel.
I was very low on DK Metcalf in the draft just because I thought he lacked receiver skills as opposed to athlete skills, but he's proven everyone wrong this year. Him and AJ Brown out of Ole Miss have been doing well.
Don't forget Deebo Samuel.
All right, and moving into our picks for Week 16, we got a nice slate of games. Let's start off with some Saturday football. The Texans and the Buccaneers in Tampa Bay. Who you guys got?
Well, we were talking about how unpredictable Jameis Winston is, but I'm going to try and predict it here. I think he had a great game last week, but normally with that comes a bad game, and I'm going to say he has a worse game than he did last week. I mean, obviously, but I'm going to take the Texans in this one over the Buccaneers.
Well, I believe the Bucs are at home. I mean, could they play spoiler? Could they? I'm not sure, but
Well, no, the Texans already locked up the AFC South title, didn't they?
Nope, Titans could come.
The Titans
could come back.
Yeah.
I thought I saw something about that.
If Houston loses, Titans have an opportunity to come back into the division if they beat New Orleans.
Yeah, and as a Browns fan, we're still in the playoffs.
No,
okay, we're still in the playoff hunt.
Nope.
But obviously, I don't want to get my hopes up because I know they're just going to tear me down again. But I think the Buccaneers can play spoiler here. I don't know if I'm going to pick the upset, but oh man, that's tough. You know what? I'll take the upset. I
got the Bucs in this game. Trap game for Houston that will give Titans an opportunity to come back into the division. They got to beat New Orleans first. I'm gonna go with the upset here. I'll say Buccaneers by 10.
Wow, by 10?
By 10.
No way. I'm going way closer than that. Way closer. I'm taking the Bucs, but in a very close game.
And moving on to the Bills and the Patriots, a nice little divisional game. Probably one of the best divisional games we'll see all year in New England. Who do you guys got?
Oh, God.
I'm going to take New England just because I don't picture anyone beating the Patriots in New England. Other than the Chiefs did, but...
Yeah. I want the Bills to win so bad. But again, like I've said on this show many times, I just can't bet against Tom Brady in New England. So I'm taking the Patriots.
Jack, who do you got?
Well, I was going to pick the Patriots, but now... you guys both picked the Patriots. Last week, if you paid attention to our picks last week, we all got the exact same record last week. And so I'm going to do something a little bit different. I'm going to take the Bills. I think they're the trendier pick.
Bills Mafia.
I think their defense slows down this already slow Patriots offense. So I'm going to take the Bills in this one.
And moving on to the Rams and the 49ers in San Francisco. Saturday Night Football. an interesting setting here because if the 49ers win out, they will get that number 1 seed back. It all starts with a win here. Who do you guys got? I'm going to take the Niners at home.
Okay, I'm going to take the Niners too because I think they're just going to be extra motivated after that. I mean, like you said, the trap game with Atlanta beating them.
Here's the thing. Divisional teams play much harder against each other. Donald will have... I think Donald's going to have 3 sacks, and we know how much Jimmy Garoppolo likes to fumble the ball.
Yeah.
So I think there will be 1 fumble from Jimmy. I think the Rams' defense will dominate, but in the end, the Niners will squeak by.
I think just watch out for, exciting rookie Deebo Samuel because Ramsey's going to shadow Emmanuel Sanders, and I think Deebo's going to have a big game.
And the Jaguars and the Falcons here in Atlanta.
I'm just going to say I picked San Francisco for that one.
Yeah.
Oh, nice. Jacksonville and Atlanta. I'm going to say Jaguars will win. Minshew Mania.
Yeah.
I'm going to take the Falcons.
I think Jaguars. I'm going to take the Falcons too, but I think Minshew
Falcons are favored in this game.
Well, the Jaguars have been awful recently.
Yeah, and
they beat the Raiders.
Yeah, they beat the Raiders
but they lost
on
by
a big
20
choke by
for
the
like
Raiders.
so
I
many
think that
straight-
come from behind victory will give them
Not
some
enough,
sort of
not-
A lot of bad
against
teams have beat the
Yeah.
Raiders.
But Atlanta's also beaten some good teams, so like the Saints and 49ers. So I'm going to take Atlanta. And next game, let's go Jets Steelers
Jets Steelers.
at New York. I'm going to take the Jets in an upset, hoping for them to win. Please do.
The Steelers need to watch out for this game. The Jets are playing better, and an upset is possible. The Steelers are 3-point favorites.
Steelers haven't looked good, and Jets do have.
I'm
a
going to
defense.
take the Steelers.
Okay.
But an upset is very much possible. Very much possible. The Jets, the score doesn't say it all, but in that Ravens game, they were playing better.
Yep.
It seems weird to say that they got blown out, but I think it's going to be a very close
there were a
game.
couple of missed calls in that game that a lot of people pointed to that it wasn't. It was closer than a 21-point game, maybe a 14-point
Also,
game.
a bit more drop passes again.
Yeah.
So.
But Delvin Hodges is starting again, and I think the Jets defense will be able to shut down the Pittsburgh offense. So I think the Jets are going to win this one.
Let's hope.
And moving on to the Ravens and the Browns, I'm going to go ahead and take the Ravens here. I think Lamar Jackson's going to keep it going. I don't see an upset happening.
I've lost all hope. You know what? Just go with Baltimore. I've lost.
You
all
lost
hope.
all hope. What were you doing on the Steelers pick?
Just rooting. I don't want to see it. What? It doesn't matter. I don't want to see this. I can still see the Steelers lose. Why not?
All right,
Have fun with
I'm
it.
going to take Baltimore by more than they beat the Jets.
All right, and then the
Wow.
Saints. Wow, that's a lot. And then the Saints and the Titans in Tennessee. That's going to be a really good game. I'm going to say the Saints win. I'll give a score prediction. 34-17.
Let's say the Saints win 29-23, and that would put the Titans at 8-7.
Mm-hmm. And that would, I think, if the Texans win that game, then they'd lock up the division. I'm pretty sure.
Yes.
Yep. And moving,
I called the Saints. I called the Saints blowout last week, and you guys disagreed with me. So I'm gonna go this week. I'm gonna say they beat the Titans by about 10 points. I think it's gonna be a little bit closer, but I think Breeze is they're on a roll right now.
And moving on to the Panthers and the Colts in Indianapolis, I think I don't know who I want to take in this game. Will Greer's going to start.
Will Greer's season, baby.
I'm going to take the Colts.
I mean, you guys know how much I love the Panthers organization, but I got to go with Indianapolis.
Yeah, the Colts are my lock of the week this week. There's no way they can lose.
And the best game of this
Well,
week.
wait, quick note though, they have looked bad as of recent.
Yeah, well, so have the Panthers, and now they're moving on from Kyle Allen to, in my opinion, the worst rookie quarterback in this class.
He hasn't played a game.
He hasn't played a game, and you want to know why? It's because they all hate him there. He's been one of the least coachable and worst football players on this Colts team.
Well, let's see how he does.
And the Bengals and the Dolphins in the game of the week. Who do you guys got? I was really wanting. This is going to be the draft pick bowl. Who do you guys got in this game?
I'm going to take the Dolphins. They've looked good. I think last week was a setback loss to the Giants, but I think they're perfectly content with that loss, judging off draft position.
I'm going to go with the Dolphins.
I'm going to go with the Dolphins as well. They still play hard despite losing to the Giants. And if the Bengals lose this game, they've locked up the number 1 draft pick.
And another game that's just as good, the Giants and the Redskins in Washington.
McLaurin versus Slayton.
I'm going to go ahead and take the Redskins at home.
I'm going to take the Redskins as well.
They put up a good fight against the Eagles, so I'm going to take the Redskins.
I'm going to take them as well.
The Lions and who do you got?
I think it was a little bit ironic. Last week when Chase Young said he didn't know if he was going to declare for the draft, the Giants finally decided to win a game and stop tanking so hard. But you know what? I'm a Jets fan, and I don't like to pick the Giants, so I'll pick the Redskins, even though I really am not impressed by either of these teams. I think they're 2 of the 3 worst teams in
And
the league.
for your fantasy team, Saquon did have his coming out party.
Finally.
Yep.
Finally.
And the Lions and the Broncos in Denver. I'm going to say the Detroit Lions go to Denver and pull out a win in an upset.
Wow, that might be the worst pick I've ever heard. I'm sorry, but I'm taking Denver.
No, I'm going to take Detroit in an upset.
All right, I'm taking Denver. Again, I like Drew Lock. I mean, the game against Kansas City, it was a snowy game. Like, he hasn't had that experience yet, so he'll learn, but I'm going to take Denver.
Yeah, I'll take Denver too. I just don't think Detroit is going to win a game for the rest of the year.
Yeah.
And moving on Raiders Chargers, I think the Chargers going to get some payback here. I'm going to go with the Chargers. The Raiders are just slumping. They haven't hit rock bottom yet, but they're definitely getting there. I'm going to go with the Chargers.
Chargers are weird. Like, they destroyed Jacksonville, and then they get destroyed by Minnesota.
Well, Jacksonville's really bad.
Yeah, but they also beat Oakland. So dude, the Chargers are just so weird, man. Like,
I thought they were a lock for the playoffs. I mean, them and the Patriots, they were very good last year, and they only
Weren't
looked
they a
getting
Super
better.
Bowl pick?
I lost all hope when Derwin James got out. So I'm gonna.
Is he back and playing? I
Yes.
think he was last week, or was it the week
He
before?
came back against Denver.
And moving on to, in my opinion, the best divisional game this week, Cowboys-Eagles. Whoever wins this game, I think they're going to win the division. Like, both teams are 7-7. Oh, actually, wait, never mind. The Bills and the Patriots. But, okay.
Sunday. Best
or,
Sunday divisional
or Minnesota Green Bay.
Okay. But Dallas-Philly is going to be a pretty good game in
It's the
terms
most
of seeding.
important game of the week.
Yeah. I'm going to say the Eagles win, and I don't know if I want to give a score prediction. You know what? I don't... This is going to sound really stupid, but I'm going to say the Eagles win 9-0.
Okay, well, that might be a stupid score prediction, but look, well, depending on the weather, but the Eagles, I think Dallas always plays well against Philadelphia, no matter what they are. They could be like 5-7, they could be 6-0. They always play well against Philadelphia, so I'm going to take Dallas, despite being on the road. And even if Philadelphia wins, if Dallas wins Week 17, they lock up the division because of their conference record. So.
The Eagles should have lost these past 2 weeks.
Yeah.
I know they have wins in the record book, but they should have lost to the Giants and the Redskins.
Yeah.
And Dallas pummeled the Rams.
I know it was the Redskins, but I actually like the Redskins defense with Landon Collins. But Carson Wentz has
Carson Wentz has been good.
He's brought that team back, and I mean they really don't have anything on their offense.
Well, they're playing with third string wide receivers.
Exactly.
You see, what's his name? Josh McCown almost had to suit up and go play receiver for them in the game. And
oh my God. I mean, they're taking one more.
I've got Dallas. I think big in this game.
And moving on to the Cardinals and the Seahawks. I'm going to take the Seahawks here.
I will too.
This could be a trap game, but I'm going to go ahead and take Seahawks.
Obviously, don't like the Cardinals after last week, but I'm going to take Seattle.
And moving on, the Chiefs and the Bears on prime time. This is actually quite an interesting game. You know what? I'm going to take...
I'm taking the Chiefs.
Oh my goodness. I'm going to take the Bears in an upset.
Okay.
The Bears almost upset the Packers last week. They had 2 chances at
I
the
feel
end
like
of
if
that
they
game to
could
score
do
a
it, I
touchdown.
feel like if they could do it to Dallas, I feel like they can do it to Kansas City. That's not saying much, but
they're a weird team kind of right now. Like Trubisky, and he actually looked decent. I mean,
yeah,
and
better than
he
recent
looked good
weeks.
against Dallas. So I'm gonna take the Chiefs here though, because Mahomes. I mean, and quick shout out to Patrick Mahomes. Like I've never been the biggest Mahomes fan, but people are sleeping on him again. Like they just don't. They're not seeing as much of Mahomes because he hasn't had as many primetime games.
Well, it's just because he isn't Lamar Jackson or Russell Wilson
That's
this year.
exactly like no. But the thing is, he's put up
Yeah.
really good stats. He just dropped 302 touchdowns in the snow.
Yeah.
And albeit against Denver, like I think Patrick Mahomes can really take this Chiefs team really far. And keep in mind they are one of 2 teams to beat the Ravens.
Yeah.
So.
I'll take Kansas City to win this game and to win the Super Bowl. Just a quick early prediction.
Okay.
People are not people all last year. All they could talk about was the Chiefs, right?
Yeah.
And then the Chiefs come in and they don't win the Super Bowl. And this year, everyone's talking about the Ravens and no one's talking about the Chiefs and Mahomes. And I think people are going to be looking at the Ravens in the playoffs, Patriots in the playoffs, the Niners, the Saints in the playoffs, and the Chiefs are going to come in and they're going to win the Super Bowl because that's just how the NFL works.
Yep. Well, I mean, Chiefs could play spoiler, but to be honest, if the Chiefs match up with the Bills in the wild card round or just in any round in general, I'm going to take the Bills. So.
And our last game here, the Packers and the Vikings, Monday Night Football. I'm going to say the Vikings win. Kirk Cousins gets the respect that he, in my opinion, deserves. He's a dark horse MVP candidate.
Yeah, well, wow. Kirk Cousins in primetime.
Yeah, that's the thing. And I think that's where he proves all his critics wrong.
Yeah, no. I'm taking Green Bay.
No, I'm going to take Minnesota.
All right. Well, I got Green Bay. Jack, who do you have?
I'm not impressed by the Packers. Their record is good, but I still have not been impressed by the Packers in very many of their games this year.
I'm not either, but who do you trust in primetime, Aaron Rodgers or Kirk Cousins?
Kirk Cousins. I'm trusting Kirk Cousins
In
this
prime
week.
time.
This week I am.
This week I
This week I am.
Are you kidding me?
What happened the last time Aaron Rodgers was on primetime?
He got
He got embarrassed, right? Embarrassed. I think he has some of the worst supporting casts on offense of any quarterback in the league. Devontae Adams and Aaron Jones are good, like very good, but you look what happens after Devontae Adams, and it is barren.
It doesn't. Despite that, I think Rodgers. Again, what's the Vikings' kryptonite? It's Aaron Rodgers, and the only time the Vikings have beaten him is when they broke his collarbone. So, I think Aaron Rodgers pulls it out. I'm not saying the Vikings can't win, but what makes you think Kirk Cousins is going to win in primetime? Like what game makes you think he's going to win in primetime? Like, beating the Redskins 19-9? Like,
no, I just have this feeling. I'm not high on the Packers this year, even though their record says I should be.
I'm not either, but I'm also not high on the Vikings.
I'm taking the Vikings.
And diving into college football, LSU's Joe Burrow is your 2019 Heisman winner, and it wasn't even close. In fact, with 93.8% of possible votes per ESPN's broadcast, it was the most lopsided race in Heisman history. The previous record belonged to Ohio State's Troy Smith, who got 91.6% of the vote in 2006. Oklahoma's Jalen Hurts and Ohio State's Justin Fields had spectacular seasons. The former put up numbers virtually indistinguishable from what Kyler Murray accomplished en route to last year's Heisman Trophy, and the latter merely scored 50 touchdowns while throwing just one interception. What are you guys' thoughts on Burrow?
I mean, there was no shot Burrow didn't win it. I don't know why the other people would even have written speeches for the award.
Yeah.
It was that lopsided. I think it's interesting because you look at his season this year, and we were talking about who had the best Heisman season of the decade, and I really wanted to pick Burrow, but I didn't know if I should due to recency bias, and I thought on it for a couple days, and this is one of the best Heisman seasons of all time. He had a tremendous season.
Give respect to Mariota, though.
He's probably my second pick and the one I was battling with, but
or even Cam,
Burrow's season
Cam with Auburn, also Menzel with Texas A&M. Those are all dark horses.
The most absurd number of all, though, is Joe Burrow's passer efficiency rating.
Yeah.
Prior to this season, there had only been 7 instances of a quarterback posting a single-season passer efficiency rating of 185 or better, none of which reached the 200 plateau. But Burrow was above 185 in 12 of 13 games, went over 200 8 times, and finished at 201.5, which would have been the new record if not for Tua Tagovailoa's mark of 206.9 in 9 games played.
It looked like they plucked an NFL quarterback and plopped him down in LSU's lap, and he just played this year like he was an NFL quarterback, and that's why a lot of people think he's going to be the number 1 pick this year because unlike Herbert, he was consistent. He had the passer completion rating, and he is very accurate.
Mm-hmm.
I agree with all that, but I think show some respect to Justin Fields, guys. Come on, I mean,
he had a great season.
He had a great season, but he's not better than Joe Burrow.
Oh no, I don't think so. But again, he's younger, so he does have next year to prove himself.
Yeah.
And when it became clear, spring of 2018, that Haskins was going to be the starter, Burrow opted to explore his options in the transfer portal. 10 days. 15 pounds of crawfish later, Burrow committed to LSU and began his 19-month journey to the Heisman Trophy. It's a tale of patience, persistence, perseverance, and recently it seems that type of backstory has basically become a prerequisite for the Heisman.
And his speech was amazing. If any of you haven't watched that yet, you should go watch it now. That was one of the best Heisman speeches I have ever seen, and it was just almost tear-jerking, even though I'm not an LSU fan. I am a Coach Orgeron fan, but the way he talked about the city of New Orleans and the city that he's from in Georgia and Coach Orgeron and the transfer in general, it was just a great speech.
And of course, before we can start worrying about next year, there's still a college football playoff to be decided. As incredible as the season has been for Burrow, we all know this made-for-Hollywood storybook ending would be a national championship pitting the Heisman winner against the program that deemed him never good enough to be a starter. We came into the season expecting to see Episode 5 of Alabama versus Clemson, but Joe Burrow versus Ohio State might be even greater theater. That's why I want an Ohio State-LSU national championship.
Come on, guys. Can we please not do the Joe Burrow versus Ohio State? Let's do Joe Burrow versus Justin Fields. How about that?
But I feel like if you look at the background and the story,
it would have been
been
so cool to see Fields versus Lawrence because they were going to continue into next year, and I think that would have been so awesome to see. But we're going to see that in the semifinal.
Well, we will see Lawrence in the national championship when Clemson beats Ohio State and LSU beats Oklahoma.
I think
and LSU beats Clemson.
You're really going to say that in front of a diehard Ohio State?
I'm going to say Ohio State wins because I have not seen Clemson play a really good team.
And that's exactly why I picked them. because they could be, like we talked about last week, one of the best teams, or maybe the best team in college football. We just wouldn't know it yet. And I think that Ohio State has played a lot more stressful games, and they have a little bit more wear and tear than Clemson does. And Clemson hasn't faced a challenge like this yet. And so I think that they're going to be fresh, ready for the game, and Ohio State might be underestimating Clemson a little bit. And I think we've just forgotten how great Clemson is with the best offensive line in the country. And I just don't think they're going to lose to Ohio State. Bold prediction, I think Clemson's going to win, but then I think they lose to LSU in the national championship.
I think this game is really close. I think this has the potential to be the best college football playoff ever. And Clemson, keep in mind, they lost a lot of their seniors to the draft, right? Like Christian Wilkins, big loss. And we just haven't seen them against a good team. But we have seen Ohio State against adversity. So if they go down, 7-10 points, don't be surprised if they pull out the or a comeback. And I think Justin Fields over Trevor Lawrence right now. I think Fields is the better quarterback as of right now. But Lawrence could prove himself yet again like he did last year's playoff.
Personally, the best college football game I have ever watched is USC Penn State in the Rose Bowl.
That was a great game.
I think this game will eventually take over as the best college football game I've seen. I think that just the combination of seeing Jalen Hurts and Joe Burrow go at it, two of the best quarterbacks in the country, and two transfers, and then going to watch Trevor Lawrence versus Justin Fields and Clemson and Ohio State. I think Clemson and Ohio State is just such a good game, and this playoff is going to be ridiculous.
And diving into baseball here, this has been a really upstart offseason. In winter meetings last year, we didn't get this many signings. Yankees land Garrett Cole, the Angels signed Anthony Rendon, and the D-backs landed Mad Bum. And we haven't gotten into the heat of the offseason yet, and already these three top free agents are off the board. What are your thoughts on this, Jack and Anish?
Well, okay, I play baseball, so baseball's probably the sport I like to talk about the most. The thing I want to talk about with Garrett Cole, and especially Steven Strasburg, who also signed a massive contract, is these guys are getting paid so much money. It is ridiculous.
And for a long time, too.
Yeah. I saw a stat that the Yankees are paying combined Stanton and Cole more than the Marlins are paying the Orioles are paying their entire roster.
That's insane.
Yeah, I think the biggest offseason winner here is the Yankees. They were a team that just won 103 games, and they add one of the most dominant starting pitchers on the planet in Garrett Cole.
And I think another winner here is the Angels, because now you have Rendon, Mike Trout, and Shohei Ohtani. That is a killer lineup.
Yeah, and I think let's just be real. I think the Yankees were favored to win their 28th World Series. I think it's not even close.
I feel like they are. I feel like the Dodgers are in there too. They're in there too, even though they choke every year. But I feel like this will be a very interesting season for baseball. And I think as we get more updates, we're gonna keep looking back on these three moves and see how big of an impact it made.
And quick shout out to Mike Hazen, the D-backs president of baseball operations. I think he's 3 steps ahead of his competitors. After winning just 85 games last year, I think they have a real shot to make the playoffs, and who knows, they could play spoiler.
Yeah, I think their signing of Madison Bumgarner is my favorite to date. I mean, I'm a Giants fan, and I just want to take this moment to thank Madison Bumgarner for all he's done for us Giants fans, and it's very sad to see him go, but they signed Madison Bumgarner for less than Zach Wheeler got signed to the Phillies.
And what's crazy is the Giants offered him more.
They offered him one less year for $0.5 million a year more each year.
And the D-backs added the team option, right?
Mm-hmm. Yep. Which is, I just feel like the Giants offer was better, but for some reason he wanted to leave. And talking about the Giants, as a Giants fan, the Giants had a very weird offseason.
They got Cozart.
Here's the thing. They took Cozart from the Angels because he had a huge contract.
Yeah, they're just trying to dump.
Well, and they threw in the top 10 pick in this year's draft. Not the top 10, but their first-round pick in this year's draft.
Will Wilson,
who the Giants were looking to take instead of Hunter Bishop, but they decided not to. So now the Giants get the 2 players they wanted to draft the most, and all they have to do is take on Cozart in an already rebuilding year at a position of weakness in second base. But also then they let Kevin Pillar, their offensive MVP, and their 2 best pitchers last year, Madison Bumgarner and Will Smith, go.
I'm baffled at Pillar.
Well, let me ask you guys this: where do you think the Giants stand? Do you think?
I think they're rebuilding. They're going to be
rebuilding here.
The thing I said when I talk about this the most is once I see Farhan Zaidi, the new head of baseball operations, make a bad move, I will start to judge his decisions. But he's been making such great moves that I'm just not going to judge anything he does.
Yeah, this should be a very good baseball season. That's all the time we have for today. Thank you for tuning in. I'm Shrikar Rajendran.
I'm Jack Smith.
And I'm Anish Gupta.
See ya.